Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson Football Channel. Christmas is over, it's Saturday. You guys are watching this Saturday lunchtime. I wanted to get this video up for you yesterday. I was too busy driving around London. Had to drive all the way back here to London from Newbury, drive my granddad's car back to Newbury, then get a train, and the trains weren't running properly. And by the time I got back, it was 10 o'clock at night, and I was just thinking to myself, how the flipping hell have I managed to do that? Hadn't even thought about posting a video, so for that, I am very sorry. However, we're here now, and as much as I didn't want to do a 6 things we learned from a dreadful home performance against Southampton, I thought we need to do it. I've been consistent this season with 6 things that we learned right the way back from the first pre-season friendly. So even though the result was poor, even though I don't want to be preaching negativity on this channel, I think we've got to be realistic as Chelsea fans. At the moment, we're having performances that just blow our minds away. Then we're kind of like back to square one again in terms of thinking, and this brings me into box number 1. There's a curse at Stamford Bridge. If you remember back to the most successful teams in, the last decade or so for Chelsea, Stamford Bridge has been a fortress for us. We don't lose games at home to teams like Bournemouth, West Ham, now Southampton, who came to Stamford Bridge and got their best result of the season by a country mile. We went to Southampton, we beat them 4-1, we blew them away. Since then, they've even lost 9-0 at home. They've really changed things a bit now, but Chelsea never used to lose games at home, and right now, even though it was definitely a tactical thing that we'll get into in a moment from Frank as to the reasons why we lost, I do feel as though it could be a case of, with some of these young players, having watched Chelsea be so successful at Stamford Bridge over the years, could it be a case of just being a bit nervous to actually play and express themselves at Stamford Bridge? It's not just the young players who aren't performing in the home games, it is the experienced players as well. And as a unit, Chelsea are just not progressing forward with any kind of poise. We're not defending properly, but I do wonder if it is the home form that is putting these young players under pressure, in which case maybe the only way we get out of this form is to bring back as much experience as possible into this team. Now I know it isn't easy because we've not got the most numbers, and I looked at that game at the weekend, and even though he's no longer a Chelsea player and we haven't had him all season, and he wasn't anywhere near as good last season as he has been in the past, it's the kind of game where you could do with someone like Cesc Fabregas on the pitch, don't you think? So moving box 1 and looking at this curse of Stamford Bridge into box number 2, what was Frank doing? Setting up a 3-4-3 at home to Southampton. I mentioned it straight after the game in my reaction video. As soon as you stick 3 centre-backs onto the field, it's immediately limiting the amount of attacking pressure that you can put on your opposition. It's one of those things where, because it worked so well against Spurs and now it didn't work so well in the game against Southampton, maybe it's put Frank off. And I think that if we're being honest about things, playing with a 3-4-3 away from home is actually a really good idea. It will definitely benefit Chelsea in matches like the one tomorrow against Arsenal, and my match preview will be out later on today. The game against Spurs, 3-4-3 set us up absolutely perfectly to soak up the pressure and then attack. Whereas the game against Southampton, when teams are sitting back with at sometimes 10 players in their own box, Southampton had up to 10 players in their own box at times. Chelsea setting up as a 3-4-3, it just makes it, I use the analogy of a blunt pencil again, it literally is that for Chelsea right now. We're trying to poke and poke and poke, and everyone's just like, and what? And what? And what? And then all of a sudden, counter-attacks come, Chelsea get caught out, defensive lapses in concentration. Next thing you know, we're staring down the barrel of yet another home defeat. So, as much as I love Frank Lampard, you guys know I absolutely adore the bloke. This one's on him. Unfortunately, going with 3-4-3 at Stamford Bridge against teams that are going to sit back, it is a recipe for disaster, and it cannot happen again. That being said, when we go into my Arsenal preview later on today, second video of the day, you guys will see that maybe the 3-4-3 could rear its head once more. So box number 3, and trying to draw upon a progressive positive for Chelsea moving forward, that game yesterday or 2 days ago against Southampton, we were missing Mateo Kovacic. Kovacic was suspended. Some people, the whole 5 yellow cards thing just went over the radar for some people, and they were like, Frank's dropped Kovacic. That's certainly not the case. So if we're trying to put Frank under the bus for something, it definitely cannot be the omission of Mateo Kovacic. Kovacic was suspended, but the good news is he's back for the next game. And the reason I've given this a yellow box is not because I'm just trying to make it the most base level analysis possible, but right now with this Chelsea team, there is a bit of a worry about the performances of N'Golo Kante. I've not given him a red box because I would like to look forward to potentially using Kovacic in this game against Arsenal. Kante has not had the best return from injury. I think since he picked up that knock again after the game against Liverpool, since that match, he's not quite been at the same level that we've expected and known of him for so long. And right now, particularly that game against Southampton, we missed the dribbling abilities of Mateo Kovacic. We miss his new presence on the edge of the area to maybe get a shot away, and his tackling. Everything in the middle of the park was just missing Mateo Kovacic. And I think it is credit, when we see such a lacklustre performance where he doesn't feature at all, it is credit to what he's done so far this season. Under Frank Lampard, Mateo Kovacic has come in and he's definitely been Chelsea's best player so far this season, in my opinion. Tammy Abraham's had a very good season as well. He's scored a load of goals, but we cannot underestimate what Kovacic has brought into that Chelsea midfield. And right now, if I'm looking at this, if we use a 4-3-3, if we use a 3-4-3, I cannot see a way for Kante, Kovacic and Jorginho to continue to play in the same side together. And right now, if there is someone that would miss out, it would have to be N'Golo Kante, which a few weeks ago, there's no way I could have said this, but he's been a bit lacklustre on the ball. He's been giving the ball away. He's not been winning the ball back as ferociously as he often does without mistakes. N'Golo Kante's form is a little bit worrying. I'm not going to jump the gun and say he needs to be sold. I'm not going to go on any bandwagons like that. But right now, I think Frank Lampard needs to be focusing on trying to sustain some decent spells of form. With Mateo Kovacic doing what he's doing, with Jorginho's performances earlier this season as well, I think seeing a pivot again of both Kovacic and Jorginho could be something that Chelsea need to explore more with. So box number 4, I had to give a green box. Sometimes I give 6 green boxes, no yellows, no reds, but there was one positive for me from that game against Southampton. It was the composure of Fikayo Tomori on the ball. Chelsea is still talking about bringing in a centre-back. We're still looking for a leader. We've seen good performances from Rudiger since he came back. We've seen good performances from Zuma since the start of the season. But Tomori, in that game against Southampton, was one of the only players who seemed capable of actually dribbling forwards with the ball. Tomori's confidence for a man of such a young age and with such little experience in the top level of English football, he does look extremely composed on the ball. And if we're talking about a left centre-back for the future, I did see Gary Lineker put out a tweet yesterday and I said, you missed Tomori. I actually missed the fact that Gary Lineker had also tweeted Tomori in a later tweet. Tomori is not just the future for Chelsea at centre-back, especially in that left centre-back role, for England as well. I think Fikayo Tomori is some player with some confidence. He's good at tackling, he's quick, and he's brilliant on the ball as well. And if there was one positive that I wanted to take from that game against Southampton, it was seeing his progression again. Yes, sometimes he's slightly erratic when it comes to the nitty-gritty of defending. However, but I think he's actually made so many strides this season and I didn't want it to go unnoticed. But sticking with the role of defenders, and they were playing as wing-backs, but they didn't do anything that a wing-back should do, particularly if you're trying not to lose a flipping game of football. Emerson and Azpilicueta, the crossing in particular, that's what I've put here in box number 5. It was shoddy. It was wasteful. There was absolutely no chance creation coming from Chelsea's wingers. Now, I don't often talk about XG statistics on my YouTube channel, but one thing I do know is that Tammy Abraham was exceeding his XG for goals scored and chance created earlier this season. Now, he's not scoring as many goals. And even though I don't think he had the best game in terms of the way he held up the ball, I do believe that a lot of that is down to the quality of deliveries that are going his way in the box. Whether it's Willian, whether it's Pulisic or Mount or whoever it is offering him the ball, particularly Emerson and Azpilicueta playing in the left wing back and the right wing back position, it was absolutely nowhere near good enough for Chelsea. And I think a lot of it is down to not being able to mix up the different kind of deliveries that go into the box. If we're not doing this pass it back to the winger, pass it to the central midfielder, try and get Jorginho to play that one pass, and there's only really ever one moment that a pass over the top from the central midfielder is going to be useful. It's when the players start being drawn out of the defence and you can catch the run of Tammy over the top. None of that was happening, and it was because predictable runs from Emerson, predictable runs from Azpilicueta, and when they got into the final third, the delivery, it's shocking. I'm sorry. If we had to pinpoint one reason as to why Chelsea didn't create enough chances or even test the Southampton goalkeeper, a lot of that needs to go down to what the wing-backs were doing, particularly in the first half. Second half as well, there wasn't really any improvement from that either. And we move into box number 6, and I want to talk about Callum Hudson-Odoi. I'm not just going to single him out for being the only person that we criticise right now, but there definitely is a dip in performances that Chelsea fans have called Callum Hudson-Odoi out on. We've all said to ourselves, well, he's asked for 6 figures a week. Is he delivering anything close to 6 figures a week for a man who has not yet scored a Premier League goal? Has he done enough to warrant that? The answer to that question right now is no. The main thing that Chelsea fans are forgetting right now is that Callum Hudson-Odoi is 19 years old. He's already represented England. He had a huge say in Chelsea winning the Europa League last season, and he's coming back from a really serious injury which supposedly can take up to 2 years to fully recover from. Now, bring into this the fact that in terms of muscular development, in terms of bone development, everything else, Hudson-Odoi probably isn't fully at his peak in physical conditioning yet. He's still got a few years away from that. So in terms of people saying like, oh, we can sell him, we should get rid of him, he's not worth the money, he's become too greedy, he's focusing too much on the money and not delivering on the football field, I think a lot of perspective needs to come into play here. We all know that Callum Hudson-Odoi has got some brilliant ability. When he does have the ball, he is looking to take people on. Yes, he's not as confident right now, but as a 19-year-old, if we look at this from a psychological standpoint, he's 19 years old, he's grown up with the growth of social media and everything else around him. Of course, he's going to be seeing some of the abuse that is being fired his way on social media. Yes, I might sit here and say, and I did say in my reaction video, maybe he should go out on loan. Maybe he should. I don't personally want that to happen, but it's definitely at the moment a worry in terms of the development that he's showing. We are seeing that the repercussions of that injury and potentially the pressure that comes with a big new contract, the expectations of people like myself and you guys as Chelsea fans, we're seeing Callum struggle, and there's only one way that we're all going to be happy at the end of this, and that is if we support the man, support the boy. I mean, he's a flipping teenager still, for goodness sake. Callum Hudson-Odoi, 19 years of age, 100% not the finished product, even when we've seen him at his best, which is very exciting. But to single him out as the only attacking player to blame for the defeat to Southampton would be a really foolish thing to do. Willian, again, we just saw the Willian at Spurs and then the Willian at Southampton. It's been paramount throughout his Chelsea career. One week he's brilliant, next week we don't really know what we're watching. So Willian wasn't good again. Tammy Abraham didn't hold up the ball anywhere near good enough compared to what he did against Spurs. So all round, the attacking threat from Chelsea wasn't good enough. Yes, we bring it back to box 5. The wing backs didn't offer enough going forward either. In terms of central play, in the second half, people were on top of each other once again. Chelsea just need to fix this home form. If we're looking at this game against Arsenal tomorrow, yes, I'll go into it in more detail later, Chelsea could potentially be out of the top 4, out of the top 5 by the end of this footballing weekend. It is getting crunch time now for Chelsea. The next few games in the Premier League are going to be key. A result away at Arsenal, yes, we said it away at Spurs, but this one, it feels like even more of a cup final now, that teams like Wolves are coming from behind against Manchester City. You've got Leicester, who have lost a couple of games, but they're still far ahead of us. City is still ahead of us. Liverpool, give them the flipping trophy now. The job is done. I'm sorry, there's no title race anymore. Chelsea's focus needs to be on that top 4. We beat Spurs, they won again against Brighton. They're going to keep getting better under Jose Mourinho. Whether they make signings, whether they sell people or not, they're only going to improve. Chelsea need to fix this home form fast. We've got this away game against Arsenal, which I actually think is a good game for Chelsea. Yes, they got Mikel Arteta's first home game in charge. Chelsea can go to Arsenal and get a result. I'm very confident of that, and I'm going to tell you how I think that is going to happen later. But sorry to bring another negative video. We needed to do 6 things we learned. A lot of you guys have been asking for it anyway. These 6 boxes on the screen, a lot of them are quite generic. I could have pinpointed individuals and given a long list as to why each player on the field wasn't good enough in that game against Southampton. Even Tomori, it wasn't his best game. I was just highlighting that as one positive to move forward with from a bad performance and a bad result. But anyway, YouTube's been being a bit weird recently. It's been like removing subscribers. So we hit like 82,000 and now it's saying we've got less than 80,000 again. So if you're not yet subscribed to the George Benson Football Channel, make sure you do so and start letting me know in the comments down below how you think Chelsea can fix this home form. What do you think is the main reasons for it? And looking forward to that game against Arsenal tomorrow. Going to be giving my preview later on today. Catch you guys later. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this 6 things we learned video. See you all tonight. Bye bye.